Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a massive hidden force that is rapidly reshaping work, wealth, and the 99% in today's economy. Specifically, we're going to look closely at how job displacement uniquely affects Black households and how that deeply impacts community financial stability. If you've been watching the news lately, you might feel a bit of a disconnect between the official economic reports and what's actually happening on the ground. Well, today we're going to bridge that gap.
Okay, let's dive into this. The dominant headline narrative right now is that the economy is fine. You know, GDP is up, the stock market has its moments, and national unemployment looks historically moderate. But the question we have to ask, the question the data literally demands we ask is, who is this economy actually growing for? Because when we peel back the layers of those broad national averages, we find a much more complex reality for working families and specifically for Black workers facing a shifting landscape of automation and corporate restructuring.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll trace the ripple effect starting from the hidden jobs deficit, move to why it's about beyond just a paycheck, examine the drivers of job displacement, look at the community ripple effect, and finish up with the new economic exclusion.
Part 1, the hidden jobs deficit. We really need to look beyond the national average here, because official, broad unemployment numbers often mask deep structural inequalities.
And the data here brilliantly illustrates that staggering disconnect between the headlines and the reality on the ground. Just look at the 2025 data from the Joint Center. The average unemployment rate for Black workers in 2025 was 6.9%. If you contrast that with the 3.7% unemployment rate for white workers in the same year, you're seeing a completely different economic experience. Actually, the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities noted that Black unemployment peaked even higher at 8.2% in November 2025, while the overall national unemployment rate only hit 4.5%. This clearly shows that Black workers can be in a real labor market crisis even when the overall economy appears totally stable on paper.
Just let that number sink in for a second. 1.8 million. This is the sheer scale of the Black jobs deficit in 2025. We're not talking about the normal month-to-month ebb and flow of hiring. A gap of this magnitude is absolute evidence of a structural labor market crisis.
To put that number into perspective, the Center for Economic and Policy Research estimated that Black America would have needed about 1.8 million more people working in 2025 just to match the exact same employment-to-population rate as white America. And the financial toll of this? The CEPR estimates that this specific deficit cost Black America roughly $87 billion in lost income in a single year. That's a massive extraction of wealth and potential stability.
Section 2. Beyond just a paycheck. How a single job loss hits the household. So the crucial point is, we have to reframe a job from just a short-term paycheck to the foundational pipeline for family stability.
When we talk about how job displacement affects Black households, it's really about a cascade. Step 1 is the immediate loss of wages and benefits. Money for rent, mortgages, healthcare, it just vanishes. Step 2 is the fallout, where missed payments quickly lead to credit damage. Then Step 3 is debt reliance. Families are forced to lean on credit cards or high-interest loans just to get by. And finally, Step 4 is the long-term consequence, the widening of the wealth gap. Families lose their ability to save, invest, or keep up with home ownership. It's a rapid descent from a single lost job into a generational wealth crisis.
And it's so vital to understand that a job loss hits entirely differently depending on your pre-existing wealth. For households with inherited savings or home equity, unemployment is incredibly stressful, sure, but it acts as a temporary setback because they have a buffer. But for Black men and families already facing a severe racial wealth gap, a job loss is an immediate, family-wide financial emergency. There is no safety net to fall back on.
We also have to look at this truly surprising data point from 2025 regarding Black women. The Economic Policy Institute found major employment losses precisely where you wouldn't expect them, among college graduates and public sector workers. This tells us a really hard truth. College credentials do not fully protect against these structural shifts. And because Black women are so frequently the key household and community anchors, these job losses send absolute shockwaves through households. It reduces income for dependents and destabilizes the very people who anchor local communities.
Section 3. Drivers of job displacement. AI, public sector cuts, and corporate restructuring. We are impartially looking at the data here to understand these structural, economic shifts.
The first major driver? Artificial intelligence. And AI isn't just a tech industry story anymore. it's actively wiping out entry-level administrative, customer service, and HR roles. Why does this matter so much? Because these roles have traditionally served as the crucial bottom rungs of the corporate ladder. If AI eliminates these pathways, it literally closes the door on economic advancement before workers even have a chance to step inside.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the contrast between the public perception of corporate DEI rollbacks and the actual economic data. People often think DEI is just about changing workplace language or taking a training session, but the economic reality shows that rolling back these programs cuts intentional recruiting pipelines, eliminates mentorship, and ends supplier diversity programs. These aren't just symbolic changes. It's the removal of actual economic pathways to advancement.
Next up, the public sector. The Economic Policy Institute reported a massive drop in federal employment in 2025, shedding exactly 277,000 jobs. And public sector job cuts heavily impact Black workers because, historically, government employment has been one of the most reliable pipelines to middle-class security. These roles often provide highly stable wages, robust health benefits, retirement plans, and strict anti-discrimination protections. When 277,000 of these jobs just disappear, it disproportionately removes a vital safety net and wealth-building tool from Black households.
Section 4. The Community Ripple Effect. How household drops drain local economies. We're zooming out from the household to the macro tidal wave here. Black employment and Black business survival are deeply, deeply connected. Right now, there is a perfect storm starving Black-owned businesses. When household unemployment rises, local consumer spending drops. At the exact same time, corporate DEI rollbacks / supplier diversity contracts. Add in broader federal grant reductions and high interest rates, and corporate and government cuts squeeze small business survival right out of the local ecosystem.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a devastating ecosystem-wide crisis. It's a vicious cycle. Step 1. Workers lose their income. Step 2. Without that income, entire communities lose their local spending power. Step 3. Local businesses lose their revenue. And finally, Step 4. To survive, those businesses are forced to cut even more jobs.
Section 5. The New Economic Exclusion, a systemic shift masquerading as neutral. Let's tie all these elements together into a cohesive economic theory.
The source material defines this perfectly. The new economic exclusion refers to systemic barriers that appear as neutral automation, corporate restructuring, and budget cuts, but practically result in quietly closing doors for marginalized workers and businesses. This is absolutely crucial to understand. Modern exclusion doesn't always announce itself. Instead, it hides inside algorithms and policy changes that seem completely objective on the surface.
Let's look at exactly how these seemingly neutral tools operate in practice. When a company uses AI resume screening, the practical result is often that qualified candidates are filtered out before a human ever sees them. When a company rolls back DEI programs, it results in fewer intentional hiring pathways, and when basic automation is implemented, entry-level roles are eliminated, locking out workers who already had less access to professional networks.
Ultimately, this crisis is not just about who is unemployed today or the short-term loss of a paycheck. It is about who gets access to tomorrow's economy and generational wealth. Contrasting the short-term paycheck loss with the terrifying long-term destruction of the pipeline to future wealth is what makes this so critical. So I want to leave you with this provocative question to think about. If automation, corporate rollbacks, and public sector cuts are actively removing the very entry points that working families rely on to build stability, will tomorrow's economy actually have room for everyone? Think about that as you look at the next jobs report. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the data.